Welcome back to JMuddy93. I am Jeremy Warner. So today, here's what we got going on. I really think it's time to actually change up my Snorkel kit here before Mud Bash. Three quick easy things I'm going to do is I'm going to take these screw offs off of here. Take all these three off. We're going to raise it to about here, and that way when we go to Mud Bash, we don't have to deal with having to remove the pod in probably the most challenging way, because the one thing I really don't like about the Triangle ATV kit is how everything just screws on and it screws off. Screws on, screws off. It gets annoying after a while. So anyhow, that's the only dislike that I have with this kit. Other than that, it's a really good kit. I just wish they would have never really designed it like this. So anyhow, let's get started on tearing this apart, and hopefully we can have this all ready by Wednesday by the time I leave. Okay, so real quick, before, we get into, oh, that's a great kit, why are you kind of sabotaging it? Well, I'll show you why. When it comes to screwing these on and screwing these off, all three of these here are a pain in the ass. Mainly this one here, because you have to pry up on a screwdriver. Sometimes it doesn't want to go up in there right. This side, same thing, and same thing goes for this side. And it's really just flat on out annoying. And I think everyone can understand when it comes to these Outlanders that we really do want a simple system that we can actually take apart, so we can actually service all of our electronics that are actually on the inside of this baby right here. So anyhow, now that that's settled, what I'm going to do is we're just going to take this pod right off. For me, it's just this plastic piece. Throw it over here for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a knife here, and we're going to actually cut it right about there. There's our pieces all cut. So what I'm going to have to do here is, before I assemble all this, I'm going to have to wipe all of that out so I can actually stick some silicone in there. But, yeah, here are the three freaking biggest pain in the butts of this kit that I personally don't like. So even though we are not actually going to be using the screw-on pieces when it comes towards the pod, because if you don't have a tight seal, how should I put it? You're going to end up with leaks, and leaks are honestly the last thing I want to deal with. For me, I actually want my Triangle ATV kit to actually be nice and secure. And also, too, people have been asking me, where have I put my bellows boots for this kit? It's been one question that I have had a lot with. Well, somewhere in this pod here, I actually have a bellows boot in the pod. I also, when I first got this machine, I put a bellows boot on my front diff. Right here, I basically just removed the vent line here, because the vent line actually traveled up through along this column here and went straight up. So That's where I have one of my boots. Well, actually two now. And then finally, another one people have been asking me about. This is where I actually put my rear diff bellows boot. These two parts here were actually the first modification I've actually done to my wheeler. So that's why you only see one bellows boot from the transmission going up into my wheeler. And, you know, just makes things 10 times easier when it actually comes to putting your pod together. Now, another thing, people have been asking me in the other video, what do you use to actually anchor your pod into place? Well, that's pretty simple. I actually use wall anchors. In fact, this is honestly on the left side, where normally it tells you to actually install. They usually tell you to install a push pin here and a push pin here. Well, I chose to do a wall anchor, and then I have another screw that actually pops up into here. And what I find is that it actually keeps everything in place a lot better than the screws that they give you. The screws that they give you really don't actually hold things in place. And it honestly is another thing that actually ticks me off about this kit. Because really, you pay $275 for a kit. You think they would at least provide you some kind of decent hardware. And, you know, it was, to me, I just find it ridiculous. It took me all summer to actually finally get that whole pod secure. Okay, so one thing I really do want to apologize on, because normally I would show the entire process of what I do with everything on this wheeler, but in this situation, I really wanted to make sure that everything actually fits, you know. So my dad and I already did that, so the next step in this process is going to be basically taking all this off, and I think the plan is going to be take this off one at a time and get everything sealed. And the reason why you always pre-fit things is because you really don't want to go through hell when it actually comes to taking things apart. So for now, take that off. And one other thing I'm going to do here is slide this tube out. That is, if I can get it loose enough. All right, made sure all my silicone's off. But one thing I'm gonna do here is go along the bottom of the Fernco here. And just take my finger, because I really want this nice and tightly sealed. I really don't want water getting in here. Smoothie that on up. Sometimes things don't like to go in easily, which that's okay. But I'm also not the first person to actually modify a triangle ATV kit. There are others out there that have actually modified the triangle ATV kit, because when you're getting them off, when you have to deal with screwing and unscrewing, the pieces that they give you, it kind of gets annoying after a while. In fact, it's funny how something that came off so easy doesn't really want to go on so easy. There we go. Slide it on through. Push that back. And we'll just tighten everything up. And so, since I really don't want to bore you with this process, I'm going to switch this into a time lapse. Okay, so I want to really explain to y'all what I'm actually doing differently, and this is why you did not see the test fitting process. So what I used is 1.25 inch pipe, because that'll actually fit right into the spa hose. And then what I use is a 2 inch, which is up here for the 2 inch pipe. And then what I have down here is 1.5 inch Fernco. And it actually keeps everything nice and tight. I basically put silicone all around here, and I put it around here, and then I'm gonna put probably a little bit around the top here, just to keep things nice and sealed. I know normally Ferncos do a great job when it comes to plumbing and all that, but I just like to be a little bit safer than most. But I just wanted to explain a little bit of what exactly I am doing, so then you actually get an idea what I am doing during this time lapse. So anyhow, I'm going to put the rest of these in, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so one thing I want to mention before I actually shove the pot on here, it goes down a little tight, but that's okay. So one thing I do want to mention is that for the triangle ATV kit, for what I'm doing, you're actually going to need to bore out, or take like a sandpaper wheel or a stone wheel or a Dremel, and you actually want to slightly bore out the diameter of the holes of the bracket of your triangle ATV kit. And I mention this because it's just from experience of trying to test fit everything on and off, on and off, on and off. And you know, you really don't want to be fighting with things. This is the whole reason why I actually changed up this kit, because I really don't want to fight with things. And one other thing too, I know my shop's kind of messy right now, but one thing I really do want to mention too is that when you get like a 2 inch pipe, when you go to Lowe's, buy the long 10 or 12 foot or whatever piece that they have, and you're going to cut these pieces down to like 3 to 4 inches. And then what you're going to do is And here's what I recommend. Get like a buddy, or if you have a lathe or whatever, a belt sander actually works really well. I took a belt sander and I just went around and around and around and around sanding these till they actually fit into those holes right there after I actually slightly bored out the holes. But that's what I really did to try to make this kit a lot easier so you can actually remove the pod. So when you remove the pod, it makes it that much easier to service your electronics. I know some of you all are going to point out, well, he looks really tired from trying to plan this out. Yeah, it really was exhausting to try to plan this out. On top of that, too, I'm leaving for Busco Thursday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning, and today is Tuesday. So I'm pretty much rushing to get things done here. It's really not the best way to go. But anyhow, time to get the pod on and show you how well it actually fits. All right. So it's time to get the pod on. There we go. Now, one thing I will admit is that things are not actually going to fit easily. Like, you're going to have to push down a little bit to give it a little bit of effort to actually stay still. But to me, it's honestly no different than when I actually had the main part of the triangle kit itself. Just press down. But the whole point of doing this change is so then yourself, you can actually service everything that's underneath this pod here. Screw that down. And then there's a wall anchor right here. I always recommend using wall anchors when holding down your pod when it comes to this triangle ATV kit, because this, like what I said earlier in the video, screws that they give you don't exactly work the way that they should. Okay, so I am actually filming it from a vertical angle because these are just so freaking tall. Like, oh, don't sit on my toolbox. I could do this, and you could see the ceiling, one of the lights on the ceiling of my shop a little bit, along with part of the tire rack. And I am just freaking mind blown. So anyhow, I know this really isn't a great way to end the video, but since we have our PVC piece that goes down into the pod here, And then on top, this is where your snorkels go. You can either anchor these with, you can either anchor them with screws or whatever, but basically you're going to be anchoring the tips together, which you'll see that another time. Like what I said, right now I am currently in a middle of a rush to get to Busco. But anyhow, if you're at Busco and you see this crazy thing, let me know. So I will do some trimming here because I think this kind of looks ridiculous. And I think everyone knows I'm not really going to go that deep. Like, I'm probably going to cut them right about here, which is actually a decent amount. But anyhow, if you can, please like and subscribe if you like what you see. I know you didn't see the final product, but stay tuned for the Busco Beach video, and you will see the final product, along with a few other things that I have going on. So, anyhow, please like and subscribe. Anyhow, y'all have a good night.